Good evening. Welcome to the January 9th meeting of the Westborough Planning Board. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. We have a continuation of the public hearing for 165 Flanders, a continuation of the public hearing for 134 Fisher, modification to the site plan review at 2 Bridle Lane, a public hearing for the special permit and site plan review at 12 Union and 59 Brigham Street, and then some administrative business. Why don't we just start with the 165 Flanders? Jenny, do you want to give us an introduction on this, or should we go straight?
Sure. So the applicant is currently working with the Conservation Commission and Engineering Department through the peer reviewer, Ty and Bond, on a few comments and concerns that they had. So they're still going through that process. They were scheduled to go in front of Concom tonight, but that meeting was continued. But I did ask the applicant to attend the planning board meeting tonight so that he could give you an update on what's going on. And then most likely we'll be requesting a continuance to the February meeting.
Good evening. I'm Andy Platt from Bowler Engineering, 352 Turnpike Road in Southborough. So Jenny pretty much just said everything I was going to say, so it has been kind of a long process. I realized the last time we were before the board was about a month, or actually a year ago. So there have been a couple of rounds of peer review comments from Ty and Bond since then. It's taken some time to go through those comments, back and forth. The project hasn't moved too quickly, but that's the reason that we've kept continuing. As a result of those comments, there really haven't been any changes to the site layout. It's basically the same plan as you saw a year ago. There have been some changes to the drainage and grading, but that's about it. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I know there were some open questions too about EV spaces, the billboard from a year ago. I don't know if those have been addressed or if you want me to address those, but I'd be happy to answer those or any other questions you might have.
There was some, I don't know that those have been addressed. We did have questions on EV parking spaces, or at least. And I had a question on that, on the billboard.
Okay.
You want to respond to those now or wait till you come back in?
I'll take care of the billboard right now because that's a pretty easy response. So that's not under EGA's control. It's leased out to, I think it was RSA Media or some other company, so they have no control over the messaging on that billboard, unfortunately. So,
okay. So here's my problem with that answer, right? You own the land on which that billboard sits. You generate income from the lease, right? If it's a zoning enforcement issue, who is going to be fined? We can't find the lessee. Is it lessee or lessor? I forget. Whatever the language is. We can't find them. So you're going to get fined, right? So that's my problem with that, because that messaging on the billboard is not in compliance with our zoning bylaw. So I don't have a crusade on this, but it's the principle that I'm trying to enforce here.
okay.
Again, I don't know what to say about that anymore. It's really the same answer I got a year ago. Okay, and then the EV stations?
Yep, EV spaces. So they're not proposing any EV spaces at the warehouse. They are looking at adding them at the main building. So there will be EV spaces in the site, but maybe not at the warehouse.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we're going to.
Mark, you didn't really get a question. I mean, essentially, who do we go to for enforcement? I mean.
Well, again, if we ask the zoning enforcement officer to enforce that via fines, they're going to fine the landowner. So I think the landowner may want to evaluate whether the income from that lease is worth getting fined over. So again, I don't expect you to answer that tonight, right? But I kind of expected to have an answer in the last year.
No, I apologize. I didn't realize that you had been told that it was leased by somebody else. I also wasn't aware that there were possible infractions for that kind of messaging. Okay. So I'll just relate it to their attorney and also to EG America, and they can just take it from there. And,
Sure,
you know.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's some discussion between you and the owner, I mean, it just seems to me that, you know, back and saying, not my problem. Discussion with whoever's put in charge of putting the messages on the billboard to explain to them.
I think Jenny's gonna look it up right now. Is it even in violation? It's not like they're selling anything? Advertisement?
Yeah, I believe advertisement of marijuana-related products was in the bylaws, but
I just
if
wanna,
I'm wrong about that, then great. No,
yeah,
that wasn't
I would
great.
just wanna
Yeah.
double check.
I can't say that 100%. I would need to look
I don't think we
further
need to-
into that.
I don't think we need to answer that right now either, because before we ask for any enforcement, we would certainly want to make sure that it's explicitly in the bylaw that was passed at town meeting, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I'll take a look in the bylaw with the zoning enforcement officer to see where it does state that on the signage portion. Is there an active advertisement right now on that billboard?
Rotating advertisements, and I would say
But does,
once every 5 minutes, you get one for,
and one of the advertisements is for cannabis? Okay,
more than one, I would say.
okay.
I would just think we should look into it before we make the applicant and have their attorney look into it. I just don't think it's necessary until we do our homework.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, if there's nothing else from the board, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public here that wishes to address the board? Any public comments submitted on, by email, Kristen? Nothing? All right, so I believe we're going to continue this if there's a motion.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for 165 Flanders Road until February 20th, 2024, 24th meeting date.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor. We'll see
Thank you very much.
in February. Great. Next item on the agenda is a continuation of the public hearing at 134 Fisher. This is also being continued. I have a letter from the applicant's attorney, I believe, that I need to read into the record. I, Peter Barberi, attorney, on behalf of the applicant, respectfully request a continuance of the public hearing for 134 Fisher Street until the next public hearing on February 6, 2024. That's signed by the attorney for the applicant. Any questions? Okay, there's a motion on this.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for 134 Fisher Street until February 6th, 2024 meeting date.
Discussion. All those in favor? That is also 5-0 in favor. Next item on the agenda is a modification to the site plan review at 2 Bridle Lane. Jenny, do you have any comments before we turn it to the applicant?
The applicant has requested a minor modification determination for the site plan that was previously approved by the planning board, I believe at the November 14th meeting date, and it's to add commercial, an additional space to store new equipment, so it's a separate cold storage building. This has been reviewed by the engineering department and other departments. The engineering department had comments that were addressed, and the plans revised by the applicant.
Okay. Go ahead. Name and.
I put that up. I can change over to yours if you have it up.
After the planning board approved the site plan, Satterfield and his employees to kind of walk over the turn of flow, which is space, showroom, the office area, Verizon. And through that discussion, it came up that we didn't have any sufficient space for new machines that had just come in, ready to be assembled, or machines that had been assembled for delivery at their existing facility on Route 9 and have a cold storage structure at the back of the site that can be used for that. So initially, they asked for a 60 by 80 coverage requirement in this zone, we could only go 50 by 60. Outline of that in red. As approved, the driveways, parking, circulation, everything related to the building is the site is mostly a field now. There's wide, 20-foot walls, a roof, and a concrete floor, with one overhead door here on the front of the building. Oh, thank you. So that they can store the equipment in that building. So this is the revised site plan. We did rerun the drainage calculations, and because it's such a small amount of rooftop, really changing from grass to rooftop, it had no effect on the stormwater design. Engineering departments approved that. And we also, at the planner's request, we put together some perspectives of the building. So this would be, please only focus on the building piece. We didn't build in all the trees and landscape, but this would be viewing the building from Bridle Lane. This would be the front here facing Bridle Lane and the right-hand side with the overhead door coming out of service, the canopy on the back. This one shows the cold storage. You have the left side that faces Bridle, the drive under canopy at the back, and then this would be that freestanding cold storage building. And if I show you again the site plan, I should
Is
have.
it actually cold storage, like with the panels and everything and temperature control?
No, cold, I just mean unconditioned, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
not
Oh,
heated,
Okay,
not freezer.
okay.
Sorry for that.
That's okay.
So no utilities,
Just electricity.
just electricity.
Yeah, and what I should have noted is this existing dark green here, this is the existing tree line to remain. And then we have trees planted, proposed to be planted along Bridle. So really from the Oak Street side, the building screens it, and from the Bridle Lane side, a combination of new plantings and existing trees to remain, really allow this to be tucked in nicely behind the existing building. I think I showed you this one. Yeah, this is just a close-up. This shows the loading pit going in, the door to the back of the showroom, the door into service, and then just a small concrete apron connecting one to the other so that they'll be able to run a fork truck, out of the service area and into this building to move machines around. All of these files should have been emailed to the board to review, and also combined them and so they could be uploaded to Permit Pro. So they're going for kind of a barn country look. You can see we've got the cultured stone underneath the building and the canopy to display out front, and so we've tried to tie in the back building so it's all consistent.
How much open space is there now?
39.9. I massaged the concrete apron from the approved plan to this new building for about an hour back and forth to get it to work and stay under the 40% with a smidgen of wiggle room.
What's the building height again for the approved building?
I have that, bear with me. So it's 30 foot at the facing the Oak Street side, and it slopes to the back. Of course, that's not dimensioned. 26 in the back.
Okay. And you said the.
The eave height on that one is 20 feet, and then it has a 3-pitch gable roof on it. So when you're facing it, and that's what the perspective, the front perspective shows that the best. That's the wrong folder. Actually, this one shows it too. So that's the existing.
Yeah, so you're not going to be able to see. Okay.
Yep. That's from the back, looking towards Oak. So, happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the board? This is not a public hearing, but is anyone here from the public to address us on this change? Seeing none, no further questions. Do we have a motion?
I move that the planning board make a finding that the proposed modification is minor and does not require a full public hearing. However, the proposed modification is subject to the following conditions. Number one, all terms and conditions of the original site plan decision dated November 14, 2023, and all subsequent modifications, unless modified herein, shall be brought forward in full force and effective with this modification. 2, the applicant shall record this decision with the Worcester Registry of Deeds before the commencement of authorized site activity and shall submit proof of recording to the planning board. Failure to record this decision before the commencement of authorized site activity shall result in the rescission of this decision. The approval is limited to the, number 3, the approval is limited to the modification as shown on the site plan entitled Layout and Materials Plan dated October 4th, 2023, and revised January 8th, 2024.
Second.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question before you vote on that? So I'm okay to proceed with the previously approved work. I just can't proceed with the storage building until it's recorded? Is that the intent of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you, at least that's my opinion. I don't know if the board feels
Right, I'm
otherwise, but.
just not clear what, no appeal period on this because it's a.
No, it said I can't proceed with work until it's recorded, but we've already started work at the site, so we're there working, so
Okay.
just
yeah.
wanted to make sure that the intent of that condition was only
I
related to
think
the
it's a question
modification.
probably for the zoning enforcement officer, but if he would ask me for clarification, I would agree with Jenny that you can proceed on the building that's already approved, but not on the new building until
Until
it's
that's recorded.
recorded.
Yep, okay, thank you.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? That is 5-0 in favor. Thank you, Patrick.
Excellent, thank you very much. Have a great
Next
night.
item on the agenda is public hearing for the special permit and site plan review at 12 Union and 59 Brigham Street Community Center. I have to read the public notice into the record. Legal notice of the Town of Westborough, Office of the Planning Board, notice of public hearing. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and Sections 3.1 and 4.7 of the Town of Westborough zoning bylaw. The Westborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 at 6:30 PM on application record number 23-04114, requesting a site plan review and downtown planning overlay district special permit modification to allow modifications to the Bay State Commons site plan approval and special permit 04-1 to reflect the creation of a new building lot for the Town of Westborough's proposed senior and community center building, and reflect changes to the lot lines and parking distribution for the Bay State Commons retail project. The location of the proposed project is 12 Union Street, parcel 21-57-0, and 59 Brigham Street, parcel 21-233-0, Westborough, Mass., located in the D-Pod zoning district. The owner and applicant for the filing is BSC RE Owner LLC and Westborough 16 CC LLC. The public hearing will be held in the Great Hall of the Forbes Municipal Building, 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Mass. Please see the calendar on the Town of Westborough homepage for additional information. To access the application and any submitted documents, please go to our online permitting system, Permit Pro, at https://westboroughpatriotpermitpro.com, and search the above referenced record number. Records are also available for review in the Westborough Planning Board office at 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Mass. during regular business hours. Persons unable to attend may submit comments in writing to the Westborough Planning Board in advance of the public hearing. And that public notice was in the Telegram and Gazette on December 15th and December 22nd. Again, Jenny, any comments before we turn to the applicant?
For the presentation, would you like to connect to the board, or do you want me to pull up the plans?
Yeah, if you can just go through the plans, I'll just walk through them a little bit
Okay,
and
and I have a
explain.
pointer here.
I've got it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So the applicant is requesting a modification to a special permit that was granted in September of 2005, which a copy is included in Permit Pro. This did go through department review. There were very few comments. There is a comment from the community development director that I added a condition in response to right before the meeting. And it's just referencing the easement plan that was referenced on the actual plan. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of that he is recommending that prior to the recording of the decision, that we get a copy of the reciprocal easement and operational agreement between BSC and the town.
Okay. Yeah, we had essentially added that note to the sheet, the site plan sheet, so that, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Randy Waterman from WDA Design Group here in Westborough, and also with me is Jamie Anderson from Grossman Development. They are the owners of the property. This is just a cover sheet. If we want to flip the overall, prepared a regional-looking plan to help get everybody oriented to what we're trying to accomplish with this plan. This plan starts over on the left side of the property, or the west side of the property is East Main Street, and down in the lower left-hand corner is Brigham Street, where it comes off of the Rotary. The square white boxes you see on the left side of the plan, the dense development, that's Bay State Commons. Those are all the existing retail buildings. The building that is outlined in the red line, that is the existing BSC sports facility, and that is the whole purpose and drive behind this plan, was to create a new building lot with legal frontage and lot area for that BSC former sports facility, so that could become the town's new community center and senior center. So essentially, the development that you see with the large retail buildings and the parking, that was the 12 Union Street property that was owned by Bay State, and that wrapped around the red lines that we show here, wrapped out to the back of the property, and down included the land that's on the bottom of this plan, G7. So in total, the Bay State Commons property was on 52 acres. And although there's no open space requirement in the D-pod, it does need to be reviewed and approved by the planning board. So what we've done in this case, when we create the frontage and the lot to make that a building parcel for the new community center, we are truncating the section of land that wraps around the rest of the property. And now that G7 that is shown on this plan, that would become permanent open space. So they're not intending to cut something off and then try and build more over here. G7 now won't have frontage because we're using frontage for the new community center. And so G7 is listed on the A&R plan and the approved plan as a non-building lot. It doesn't have any frontage, and it's almost all entirely located in wetland, floodplain, and the ACEC of the Great Cedar Swamp. So just for references, as Jen mentioned, the property was approved back in, I think it's March of '04, is under the Downtown Planning Overlay District, which is a nice, general written bylaw that allows creativity and allows for multiple buildings on one lot. It allows for multiple uses on one lot. This property allows residential, retail, office, restaurants. So that's part of the reason why cutting this piece out of the Bay State Commons works so well, is because we don't have conventional zoning. It is industrial A underneath, but the overlay is the D-pod, and the D-pod really allows everything that's happened on this site so far, and it allows us, once we cut this away, to have less open space on each of these lots because there's no open space requirement in the D-pod. It's as determined by the planning board. And so the open space essentially stays the same, it's just on separate lots in this particular case. The plan that you see has been in the works for quite a while. We were asked to meet with Jamie's group, Grossman Development, and Christy Williams, Fred, and a couple other town members back in May, and that's when this plan was starting to sort of take shape, and we've been meeting ever since then with various boards. We've met with Jenny a couple times and with Fred more times. We've had a one-stop meeting recently, and so that's how this plan really got generated, and that's been, I know Jamie's had a million more meetings than I have as far as with the town and developing the plan to make this happen. So it's been in the works quite a long time. The only, waiver that I know that we're asking for is there's a filing fee that you have with a special permit, and generally for town projects, you don't require those application fees. So we have asked in our application if you would consider waiving the fee for this because it really is a town beneficial project. So we do have that in the request. That's something that the board does need to, I think, act on. The site plan, again, if we go to the next sheet, actually is good, just so you can see the overall existing conditions plan. Jenny? So this one, we don't need to spend much time on, but this is the as-built drawing that we have of the Bay State Commons. The building 1500 that you see, that's actually the BSC building. You can see it's surrounded by parking. It has access drives on essentially all four sides. The lot lines on this particular project were created back in the 80s, and they're very strange long necks that go out to the back of the property. But you can see this is everything that's built on the property. This is an as-built. It is not a design plan. Next plan, please. This plan shows what we're, the bulk of what we're trying to accomplish. You can see the red line that wraps around what we're now calling Lot G6. That the G notations come from Bay State Commons. The entire lot on the original plan was Lot G4, just because it had been divided over a number of times over the years. So now that we divide it again, we have to give it that same nomenclature. So the Bay State lot that is remaining, which is shown up on the left here, that is Lot G5 now. That lot is almost 17 acres. And then G6, which is the lot that the town would obtain, that is 3.75 acres in total. You can see it has legal frontage on the end of Brigham Street. There are a total of 197 parking spaces within the building lot that is shown there in red. And then in addition to that, the parking areas that are to the south, right down here to the south of the building and the south of the access drive, there's 87 more parking spaces in that location that would be shared with Grossman, the developer, so that these could be used by either party. But in reality, I think every car that's parked there in the last 10 years has probably been going to BSC. So there's not a lot of reason for the Bay State to come down to this location. So the driveway that exists at the end of Brigham Street that wraps around to the back of the property and to the warehouse in the back and to the rear land on the property, that remains intact. As part of what we're doing here, we're not proposing to change any roads, any access drives. We're not proposing to build anything. All the utilities stay in place, so everything stays exactly as it was, and there would be just shared easements so that if you, let's say you were over at Roach Brothers and you parked in the parking lot there and you wanted to drive over to the new community center, you would just drive down the driveway and you could park in any of the places. But we don't have an access easement drawn on the plan that was take you from here to there, because you could come out of this parking space and go to that driveway, this driveway, this driveway. So the council is working on a mutual agreement with the town as we speak, and the note is placed on the plan indicating that. It's up in the top right-hand corner of this plan. But there's a note that indicates that there's a mutual reciprocal agreement for access, utilities, and ownership and maintenance, and that would be signed by both parties, and I believe that's very close to being executed.
Ready to go? Correct.
So, because I think at one of the last opens, the one-stop meeting, I think town engineer had a number of questions about access and utilities, and those are covered in that document. So I imagine she's had a chance to look at those as well. So again, nothing's being proposed to be built. This is really a paper exercise, but because we're creating new lots, we had to go through an A&R plan, which we did at your last meeting, and this part is to amend the original special permit for Bay State to modify it to allow these uses to happen the way we're showing them. So we did add, Fred Leonardo had asked that we add to this plan, at the bottom of this plan, there are 3 different zoning tables, just so that the board would understand that the open space has changed on each of these lots. So there are zoning tables at the bottom of these for all the new building lots. Essentially, the old Bay State lot that is remaining, that will have 646 spaces remaining on the retail portion, and that lot will now have 15.4% open space. The Bay State, or the new town senior center building, that will have 197 parking spaces on the site, access to 87 more by easement, and that lot would have 10.8% open space. Mainly it's the islands around the building and in the parking lot. And then the lot G7, which is on the bottom of the plan, that will essentially be 99% open space, and there will be no parking spaces. It's a non-building lot, so.
What's the parking ratio for the, what would be the community center?
It'll end up somewhere around 4 spaces per 1,000 on this, which is what the original plan was. But yeah, retail is 5 per 1,000, office is 3.5, but the planning board is the special permit granting authority and decides on what they want, so.
But there'll be parking, right, we'll have rights to park on the other 700 spaces.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it says it's a paper exercise. All the spaces that are there today are going to be there in the future, and they nicely were all developed, so they're spread around all the buildings, and all the handicap is spread around all the entrances. So really, nothing has to change. It works out pretty well on paper.
Trinity, you had said, well, in the narrative, I thought I saw 196 or 197 spaces, but this table says there's 201 spaces. Am I missing something?
There's 201?
Yeah, when you look at that table at the bottom, parking space is 201 on lot G6.
Oh, yeah, no, that needs to be correct. It was 197 originally when we counted on the lot itself, And then we were going to add one handicap space so the town would have sufficient handicap to meet state code. And then we modified that a little bit at Fred's request, so it's still 197. So it should be 197. That's what is on the lot.
Change that on the
Yep.
table. That lot G7, the open space lot, that's, according to this, it's like 98% open, and it looks like it's all wetlands with just that little parking space. I realize the unlikelihood that somebody would come in under the underlying zoning and try and build on that. How is that going to be preserved as open space? Is there going to be a conservation restriction on it, or is it just purely?
We put a note on the approval not required plan that is to remain open space. It has no legal frontage, so it's not a building lot.
Okay.
And it's almost entirely in the ACEC and the floodplain, and much of it is bordering wetlands, so.
Completely understand that. I just,
And we put the note again on this one, and on this site plan, we actually added to it that this is not a building lot, and it has no frontage, so I'm not sure how somebody
so
could.
you don't think any further
Yeah, it's
legalese on that is
a difficult lot
necessary?
at best.
That's fine, I just.
Yeah, yep.
just wanna make
The
sure
plan
that
and the notes are intended to make it open space permanently.
I agree. All right. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, if, let's say hypothetically, the town closes on the building, years down the road, they go to sell it, will they still have access to the other parking in the plaza?
Yeah, that's correct. The REA will continue to the next ownership group. That's written into the REA.
I think the same would go for if the current owner of the plaza sells.
Correct. Yeah, it goes
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Motion? I'm sorry. It's a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one in attendance, go ahead, Pete.
I move that the
And
plan.
I'm sorry, one interruption. Mr. Waterman reminded me that you do need to vote to waive the application fee.
Oh, well, we can discuss that since we're selling the building for $8 million. I don't really feel inclined to waive any application fees. How does everyone else feel?
How much is the fee?
For this one, I believe it's 1,000. Hold on.
What's that?
Let me pull up our fee schedule.
Fees?
Yeah. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I'm not that inclined to waive a $1,000 fee on an $8 million property.
Is the town paying it to the town? I mean, it's
No, I think the applicant is the current owner, so the applicant would be.
how the contract reads.
well,
I think
if
it's
they wanna haggle over that
typically, I think it's
$1,000, I don't wanna be
2,000
part of it.
for special permit usually, but this is a modification, so. And it's a very beneficial project for the town.
Depends who you're asking.
I really don't want to haggle over $1,000. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah, it would be a $2,000 filing fee.
I agree with Mark.
I don't know. I mean, what does the filing fee go towards? Administrative costs to do the review and, I mean,
Yes.
we didn't spend $2,000 on processing this application.
yeah, I mean, a part of me wants to, I want to welcome this, the new owner to town. I don't want to nickel and dime them over this, but I also feel like we've been pretty generous in this. So it's hard for me to,
I don't think we should waive it.
all right, well, if nobody's going to make a motion to waive it, we can move on the original motion, which,
Okay.
I think we still have to vote up or down.
has anybody?
They still made the request
Pete can
for
add
the
it into the
waiver.
Well, no, we probably want to do it separate.
Okay, so
Be a separate
Yeah, it should be
motion.
separate.
somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we waive the application fee. Is that what it's, the name? The application fee for the modification.
Somebody has to second that. In order for, okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion?
So just to be clear, the motion is in favor of waiving it, so if you don't want to waive it, you vote against it.
Okay, so all those in favor of waiving the fee, raise your hand. All those opposed? That's 3-2. All right.
I move, am I good now?
Yeah, I think so, Pete.
Okay. I move that the planning board approve the modification of a special permit dated September 13, 2005, with the following conditions. Number one, all terms and conditions of the original special permit D-Pod numbered 04-01 dated September 13, 2005, and all subsequent modifications, unless modified herein, shall be brought forward in full force and effective with this modification. Number two, the applicant shall record this decision with the Worcester Registry of Deeds before the commencement of authorized site activity and shall submit proof of recording to the planning board. Failure to record this decision before the commencement of authorized site activity shall result in the rescission of this decision. I thought it was messed up. Three, the approval is limited to the modification as shown on the site plan entitled Modification of Special Permit and Site Plan D-Pod number 04-01 dated December 5th, 2023, and revised January 2nd, 2024.
And there's one more condition that I recommended that it's not in your packet, but it's up on the screen in relation to the reciprocal easement.
Number 4, I can read it. This is, approval is subject to the submittal and execution of the reciprocal easement and operation agreement between BSC RE owner LLC and the town of Westborough, MA, specifying rights and responsibilities of each party, including but not limited to vehicular and pedestrian ingress and egress, parking, maintenance, and repair of all common and interconnected utilities, as well as maintenance and respective common areas, including any and all necessary or required easements. A plan shall be submitted to the planning department and engineering department for approval, which references the easements prior to the recording of this decision.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we have some administrative business. Jenny, you had Director of Planning updates.
Yes, I do. So we have hired a consultant, RKG Associates, to help us with our downtown development plan. I met with them today just to go over the logistics and how it's going to work moving forward with meetings and who are going to involve for stakeholders and such. So more information to come on that, but we'll be looking to do a site walk in the downtown area in the upcoming weeks, I would assume. In other news, we signed a contract with a VHB to do a housing production plan. The Affordable Housing Trust was able to supplement some funding that was left over in the master plan implementation budget. So we have signed the contract with VHB, and we're expected to start work on the housing production plan in the next few weeks. That's all I have for updates, unless anyone has any specific questions.
I have a question. Have you talked to Pete Dunbeck about the Sustainable Westborough representation of the planning board? He talked to me about it, and he said he talked to you. And you.
Yeah, I think
So I just wanna see if there's
we're
any-
asking the select board to modify the composition of the committee so that the director of planning can represent the planning board on that.
Okay, so that's what we're moving
So
forward.
for the time being, Jenny is informally attending as best she can.
Correct.
That's how we're going to resolve that.
And I believe the select board is voting on the composition to make that change so that it's a planning board member or director of planning.
It's on their agenda tonight, so
Okay.
I'm actually going over there after this, so I may not be there in time for that item, but hopefully get an update. You're not going over there, though. You should get on the road. It's pretty lousy out there.
Yeah, I just saw some text coming in of pictures up there. It doesn't look good.
All right, reports on board members on other committees or CMRPC. I can give you an update. Open Space Committee is working on acquisition of a property on Bowman Street, and we are hopefully applying for a grant that is also on the agenda at the Select Board tonight because they need to authorize that application. We've hired an appraiser. Once we have the appraisal back, we should be able to set a sale price and hopefully have an article on town meeting. The grant would pay a good portion, up to 50% of the acquisition price, and Sudbury Valley trustees has also agreed to contribute. So I'm hoping to minimize the cost to the town. If you have questions on that, we'll have more information as we move forward on it. What else? Any other town committees that wish to report?
No meeting.
Okay. We have minutes?
Yes, minutes for the 12th of December. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Changes or corrections? If not, could I have a motion to approve 2023?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Okay, meeting dates are January 23rd and February 6th. Do we have conflicts on the board on those dates?
I think, John, you're not coming here the 23rd, are you?
Correct.
And we are having the public hearing on the MBTA zoning article on the 6th.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll have all 5 here for that. We need at least 4, I think, for that. From the-
Yes.
I forget the rules, but that's why we have you, Jenny.
So come February, we're back to our regular meeting schedule. Hazel, thank you for the invitation, the Outlook invitation.
All right. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion.
Move we adjourn the meeting?
Great.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor of adjournment. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Drive safe.